Alright, so welcome if you're here. This will be the first episode of the Fight Study podcast. I'm going to drop these on YouTube. I'm going to upscale it, make it a lot better. I'll have like a TV next to me so I can put images up and that sort of thing. But if you could subscribe, that'll be so helpful, because if I hit 1,000 subscribers, I can then start doing live videos. So if you can subscribe now, that'll help us in the future, and we'll be able to do like live events and that sort of thing from there. So we're going to go over UFC 286, Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. Now this will be the third fight, but we're going to take a look at the second fight, and I'm going to give my opinion on what can happen for this third fight. Each guy, what they need to do to make adjustments and win the fight. So we'll get straight into it. I don't want to muck around. The first round of the last fight they had was, in my opinion, the most interesting round we've seen, because Leon looked so good in that round. He did a lot of great things. He really showed what he was made of. So in that fight at the beginning, you could see he was using a lot of feints. He was using a lot of looks. He was really trying to bait reactions from Usman. He was like hanging bait there in front of his face, just hoping that he'd take a bite of it. And Usman was pretty well puzzled this first round. He was very patient. He literally didn't do much at all apart from shoot for a takedown. But Leon just had him, thinking, guessing, feeling out the process. And he did this by keeping such a long range. And that's what Leon's so good at, is keeping that long range and, to make you very wary of the shots that he's going to throw. Obviously, Leon's a southpaw, so this fight is fought. The majority of the fights fought in the open stance, meaning southpaw to orthodox, orthodox to southpaw. But Leon did switch in this fight. Reasons for why Leon switches: he'll switch to orthodox to use his punching, to use his boxing. It's one thing that I've noticed. So you can nearly tell when he's ready to throw, because he'll switch to his orthodox stance and then look to engage in the striking. Now, Usman wanted him in this stance. We could see that straight away, because as soon as Leon switched to the orthodox, Usman went straight for the calf kick. He's looking to kick that calf, and it gave him his entry into the takedown. So Leon, his biggest problem in the last fight was he kept backing up against the cage. He kept allowing Usman to back him up, put his back on the cage. He didn't really try to move from there. He just sat there. He was just watching to see what would happen. And that's where Usman can get his shots off and shoot in for that takedown. Now, especially if Leon's standing in the orthodox stance. Because the first entry we seen when Usman shot in for that takedown, what we noticed was he shot as soon as Leon switched to that stance. The reason for this is it's a safer takedown, because if two opponents are in a closed stance, meaning orthodox to orthodox or southpaw to southpaw, when you go to shoot your double, when Usman went to shoot his double, he could put his head to the outside of the lead leg. It's a shorter distance to shoot in and get a hold of the hips. And also, you're not risking getting hit with knees or the power uppercut with the rear hand. So it's a safer takedown. And this is one thing that Leon has to watch for, because as soon as he backs up on that cage in orthodox, Usman's going to shoot in for that takedown and look to get it down. Now, there's a few things that, Leon's body type actually makes Usman's job really hard. Leon's tall. He's big for the division. He's really big. Usman, using his wrestling, we noticed in that first round when he shot in for that takedown, he went down onto both knees. And the reason that he did this was so he can get a good grip around the back of Leon's, like around his legs, around his ass. The lower he gets, the more lift he can get. And as he tried to lift Leon, he couldn't quite get him off the ground. Leon could still keep his feet on the ground, and that's because he's so tall. At the same time, we've seen Leon get the overhook, meaning he grabs over the top of Usman's arms. And the reason for this is to pull him up, to stop him from getting so low, to bring him up and to get him off the double leg. He was then able to, create space, get the underhook, and they moved off the cage. Now we've seen an area. There's a few statements I'm going to make, and when you listen to this, you'll probably be like, that makes no sense. But if you go back and watch the fight, you'll see what I'm talking about. Leon did really well when he engaged in the clinch, in the open space. Not against the cage, but in the open space. Leon was able to land knees. He was able to land trips. I went over one of the trips that he did on my Instagram this morning. Basically, they were both in a 50-50 position. The weight was leaning into each other. Leon stepped to the side. So now Usman's weight is going forward into the void because the object he was leaning on, being Leon, has moved to the side. And Leon swept his leg out and got in the front headlock position. I think Leon can really give Usman a run for his money in the wrestling department when they clinch up in the center of the octagon. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Leon force that position because he's strong there and he's quite good. In fact, I was really surprised with how good Leon did in some of the wrestling scrambles. He almost got the better of Usman most of the time in those wrestling scrambles. I think if he forces the wrestling a bit more, he actually will go really well. People think that Leon's a striker, but he takes half of his fights down to the ground and beats people up down there. So I think after having the first fight with Usman, I think he really understands that he can mix it up in the wrestling department. What really let Leon down in the last fight was his cardio, and reading a bit, hearing a bit of Leon talk about it. Basically, they were at high altitude. They were fighting at Salt Lake City. He did mention that a lot of fighters on the card gassed out, and he feels that that was one of his worst performances. I do agree that it was not his best performance, but I think that he's going to show something different for this fight, which we'll go into a bit deeper. So basically, there was a time there in the first round when Leon hit Usman with the outside trip from that clinch and got on top of him in full mount. And I'll make this bold statement here, but I think that Leon Edwards is a better grappler than Usman. And you might think, oh, what are you talking about? Usman out grapples everyone. Yeah, he does. He out wrestles people. He gets on top of people. He takes them down against the cage and he controls them. But when you put them both in the center of the octagon in a grappling match, I think Leon would get the upper hand. We seen that when, as soon as Leon was on his back, he just got the knee shield in, created space, swept, and got back to his feet instantly. When Leon landed on top of Usman in full mount, Usman didn't really know what to do in that position. He couldn't really move, and he went to look for an elbow escape from the mount, but he didn't even try the elbow escape. He just rolled straight over, just gave up his back. Leon took his back and got the body lock, and what that allowed him to do was free up both hands. Usually when you on somebody's back, you got a seatbelt grip, one hand over the shoulder and one hand on the other side under the arm. But once you get that body lock, you can release both the hands and start fighting for chokes. And that's what Leon did in the end of the first, and he nearly got close to getting underneath Usman's chin. So if we see that position again, I don't think it's a bad bet to put a bit of money on Leon to win by submission. It could be paying good. I'm not sure what the odds are. I'd still say that Usman's a favorite in this fight. But the game changed when we came back out and we looked at the second round. A lot changed. Leon was just super patient. Usman was the complete opposite. He started putting that pressure on Leon. He started backing up Edwards against the cage and just getting shots off, like free shots. He would hit him. Usman would hit him with 4 or 5 shots. Leon would just cover up and just honestly didn't really know what to do. He didn't move. He didn't look to counter. He was just eating shots, and Usman was shooting in around his legs and taking him down to the ground. So we've really seen how important it is for Usman to put the pressure on Leon, keep him on the back foot in this next fight, and how important it is for Leon to get off the back foot and start pushing the pace coming forward and look to throw combinations. Because to be honest, we didn't really see Leon throw any combinations in the entire fight. In all honesty, the only time we seen him throw a combination was right there at the end of the 5th round when he put Usman out on the mat. And I don't know if that comes down to just a mental block he was having, or the cardio problems because of the high altitude. But I don't think he's going to do that again this time. So I think that the keys for Usman is to back him up, get his back on the cage, look to force that wrestling, wear him out again and take him down. But Leon cannot allow that to happen. The other thing, Leon, I think he should stay the majority of the fight in his southpaw stance and look to kick a lot more. I know Usman's obviously going to be expecting that rear head kick, the one that knocked him out last time. He'll be expecting that, there's no doubt. But I think Leon should throw it a lot. Just hitting him up high, jamming him, stopping him from coming forward. Give him something to think about, and that'll help Leon maintain his range. So we'll see if he does that. I think Leon will actually engage in the wrestling. There was one shot that he did in the last fight. It was a terrible shot, and that's because they were both in the open stance. Leon Edwards tried to shoot in for like a single leg, meaning his head was on the inside rather than the outside, and he went straight to his knees. And this gave Usman the ability to sprawl out, get the front headlock position, and then look to come around the back. Now, I don't think that Leon is going to be able to secure any of these takedowns. If we look at the takedowns like freestyle wrestling takedowns, shooting for the legs, I think Usman's too switched on for that. But I think if he can force that clinch, if he can start landing the knee, landing some of his strikes up top, and then look for his trips and land in a safe position, I think Leon could have a very dominant fight if he can get especially to that position early in one of the rounds and have a whole 4 to 5 minutes of time to work while he's down there. When we're talking about body types too, why this is a hard body type for Usman is Usman wants to climb on your back on the cage, and Leon has a good ability, showed it in the last fight, to when you take him down, he can bounce straight back up and start getting a bit of height, like posting up and getting high. And due to this height, when he's up on his hands and knees, it's very hard for Usman to get on his back. It's like he's too high. He can't just jump up and step over and backpack him. He'd kind of have to jump onto the back, and that's risking falling over the top and ending up on the bottom. So I really think that Leon has a good advantage there when he does get taken down. He showed he can get back up over and over again. The only times he got held and controlled was when Usman took him down and Leon just stopped and didn't move for a second and let Usman get to his second or third position to really start to get that inside wrist that he gets. Like the Khabib, he'll get the inside wrist, he'll hook that leg, he'll start to flatten his opponent out. And you can't sit there for long because that's what will happen. So if Leon hits the mat, he has to get straight back to his feet. And I think he can do it. If he's going to come into this fight a lot better conditioned. I was honestly, at the start of the week, I was steering towards Usman. But now I think I'm steering towards Leon. Leon has all the tools. He has the striking. He just needs that aggression, that forward momentum. And honestly, I think that he can do it. I really do think that he can win this fight. I mean, I still would have Usman as the favorite, but Leon can do it. But he can't sit on the fence. He can't cover up. You know, he can't be passive in the center of the cage. He has to be on his game and be aggressive. And, I'm really keen to see how this fight goes. It's a hell of a fight, and we're blessed because we have this fight to compare to it. After this, I'm going to come back and take a look at the fight on the weekend. We're going to look at it. I want to get a TV here too, so everything that I see on my laptop, I put it straight on the screen. I can show photos. I can't show videos because YouTube will take me down. Take it up with them. They're assholes for doing it. They'll probably take me down for saying that. But I think it's a hell of a matchup. Stylistically, it's a good fight to watch. So tune in and let's see what happens. So thanks again for tuning into this. I might go real deeper and with video breakdowns in the future. Maybe put it on Patreon or something like that for the people that are really interested in this sort of thing. But I thought I'd just give my 2 cents, throw out an analysis sort of video. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. So let's see what happens.